You are the glass ball, work is a plastic ball. Work can afford to drop, you cannot.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to another episode. Y'all, you know I'm always grateful to be with you because I'm just grateful to be on this earth one more day. How about that? But today, I am super excited. I'm super excited because not only do we get to have a conversation that I feel like is close to my heart, but also I get to have this conversation with a sister who, like, first of all, let me just be clear. I'm a little bit fangirling. No, but seriously, I have been following Madison for at least a year, if not more, and been loving her, like the posts and the just like the authenticity. And finally, I was like, you know what? I want this sister on my podcast. And so I reached out and immediately it was a yes. Immediately it was a yes. And we connected beforehand and it just, I don't know, it's the kindreds. Kindreds is what it is. So one of the things that Madison was telling me was about a career transition. I thought, let's have that conversation live because as y'all know, I've been through one. And I think it's important to be in our authentic expression, whether it's personally and whether it's in our career. And so let me introduce the a founder of Crash Out with Me. The Corporate Crash Out is the name of the podcast, but Crash Out with Me, Madison Butler. Madison, what's up?
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. Did crash out and all. Very excited about it.
Yes. Yes. I always like the audience to get to know my guests. So why don't you share a little bit about like who you are and where you are in life and how you came to be where you are and talk about this crash out because I love that. I personally love Crash Out with Me and I love the corporate crash out. And let me also just our own damn list.
Oh.
Yes, yes.
So my name is Madison Butler, Maddie B, if you know me. I am a former chief people officer who I spend a lot of my time thinking about the fact that work shouldn't have to suck.
Yes.
It is something for many of us that we do it because we have to, right? I'm not at work because I want to be. I would much rather be butt naked on a boat, but I am not because I have a mortgage. And if it is something that we all have to do 40 hours a week, it can also be the worst thing you do. It shouldn't be the thing you talk about in therapy the most. It shouldn't be the only thing your partner hears from you at the dinner table. It should just be a thing that you do. And then you close your laptop and you don't think about that thing until you go to do it again.
That's right.
But for so many of us, that is not the case. Work becomes a huge source of trauma. It becomes ingrained in our identity. It becomes a big source of burnout, of physical trauma. And for me, I help organizations fix that at the root cause. And then on the other side, if your company doesn't want to work with me to get better, I'm super happy to help you detach, even if you cannot leave. So that's my work brain. I'm also a certified personal trainer. I have 4 dogs. I travel a lot. I play Pokemon. What else do I got? Oh, I wrote a book. I did do that. I wrote a book. It came out last year. It's called Let Them See You. And
Yes.
it's about you can't be a psychologically safe space for others if you're not first one for yourself.
Yes.
And that's it. That's all I got.
Say the name of your book again.
Let Them See You.
Let them see you. I just want to make sure the audience gets that. And you're gonna say it again at the end because I think that's important. We need to let people see us authentically. And I love the work that you do. I like there's so much crossover. And so I want to talk about this idea of, first of all, you said something that you just popped in my brain when you said you help people detach even if they're not leaving. Ooh, talk about that.
So I think there is a lot of really poor advice on the internet. That's, if you don't like your job, get another one. If you don't like your job, start a business. There are all these things that are just super unrealistic without some runway, without some cash flow, without some general support. And for some people, that's just not their brain, right? They enjoy working for an organization Right now, the job market is egregious, atrocious, terrible, specifically if you are a Black woman.
Mhm.
So I'm never going to tell people to leave, but what I can help you do is take the emotional attachment out of it. For me, when I started to care less, my mental health, my physical health, my life improved. And I don't mean care less about my craft or about how good I am, but caring less about the outcomes that I do not control. Caring less about how my boss likes me. Because guess what? They're not paying me to think about them on Saturday.
Yeah.
They're
That's right.
paying me to think about them 8 hours a day, maybe a little more, Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
Anything I do outside of that is unpaid labor.
Mhm.
Thinking about them outside of those hours is unpaid work, and they don't
Mhm.
deserve that.
That's
So
right.
I work with people to help them find that detachment. But first, that means you also have to detach work from your identity. Because
Yes.
inherently, we're emotionally attached to our identities.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to detach from that. But if work is part of how you find value in yourself, if you find your worth centered around work, like we're going to have to do some work to pop those bad boys apart. And it's really hard in a super individualistic, super capitalistic society. It is ingrained in us to relate our worth to our income, to our job, to our ability to produce, to our ability to climb the proverbial ladder.
Yeah.
But that is actually a scam that they get you to work until you die. Because
Yes. Yep.
when you leave, you're like, what am I worth?
Yeah.
Because I always, when they say the statistic, a lot of people die around 5 years after retiring. When I tell you, if I retired, I would fill all of my time. I have all of the things that I can do because I have hobbies, because I have a personality, because I have a whole big life.
Yes.
But when you make work your whole life and then you suddenly leave, that's very lonely.
That is so true. You said so many things in that little, like, 2 minutes of time. You said, okay, so this whole piece around work being identity. That's something that the work that I've done has a lot been with like clinicians and physicians in the healthcare, because that is something that we are just like raised around. Like you are a physician, not like medicine is what you do. And it becomes so tied into, that's why physician burnout is so high. I imagine it's similar with the law profession. You get tied into this identity of this being who you are, not what you do, and that being the only way that you can derive value from yourself. That's so on point. And the fact that like it is designed that way. There's actually an article that came out many years ago, but I interviewed this guy on a previous podcast, and it's an article that's how to disempower physicians. Like it was like a playbook for how to disempower and keep them focused on their work, like the worker bees or the worker ants that we are. And so just like you like bringing that to a point, I thought that was just in our industry, but apparently it's universal.
No, and it's funny that you say that. So I don't know if you watch The Pit, but I watch The Pit like religiously. And in the last episode, so every season, if you haven't watched it, it's based on a 15-hour ER shift. And every episode like represents an hour. So there's 15 episodes in the season.
Oh.
So last week was episode 12, which in theory is actually a normal shift in an ER urgent care room. And so one of the women who was a doctor was leaving. And one of the other doctors was like, hey, we stay when we need to stay because we have to get stuff done. And she looked at him and was like, no, that's why physicians burn out. She was like, I have to take care of myself, take care of my patients. So I'm going home and I'll see you tomorrow. And I thought that was such a great representation of how we all need to be about our work, because we're actually much better for our work when we're not personally involved that way. We are better for our work when we take care of ourselves. And I am better for me when I can view myself as a whole human and not as a person who does work. What I have had to do is really say, work is simply something I do the way I go to the grocery store, the way I go to the gas station, the way I walk the dogs, the way I go to the gym. It is part of my life. It's part of my routine. But if someone were to take that out of my routine, I wouldn't completely crumble.
Yeah. I think the other thing too that was really on point was this piece of, a lot of people say if you don't like your job, just leave. And that's, or just start your own business. And I think that's super unrealistic as well, because not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur, as a person who's been running business for a very long time, it takes a lot, right? And you give up something for that. And you can just as well burn out being in your own business as you could being in an organization. And so it's you have to start to look more holistically, like you're saying, at what is it that needs to happen in order for you to enjoy and be fulfilled by your career, by the work that you do, without being, we call it the golden handcuffs, like being shackled to the scam, you know? Yeah.
It just, for me, and I think especially when you are from a marginalized identity, specifically if you're a Black woman, it
Yeah.
is so hard because you constantly feel like you are up against your last best thing. And so it forces you to overperform.
Yeah.
It forces you to over show up because the system has told you that the further you get away from that thing, the less you matter. And the less you matter, the less likely you are to maintain your job. And guess what? We all have livelihoods. We all have bills to pay.
Yeah.
And so they use it as a fear tactic. If we really look at 2025 and watch 400,000 to 600,000 Black women be escorted from corporate America,
Yeah.
what kind of fear does that put in the Black women who are left?
Yeah. And top that with the internal messages that come from our own families, especially in the Black family, that especially if you're first generation, it's, oh, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're a corporate professional, you're going to be this, and you got this good job. And in the generation that I grew up in, our parents, the messaging is you work, you get a good job, you work that job, and then you retire. In our generation, we woke up really late, like mid-career, we start waking up. Wait a second, we don't actually have to do that. A lot of the people that I end up coaching are mid-career, late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s that are like, wait a second, I want something different and I don't have to do what my parents did. And then what I love about millennials and Gen Z is that they woke up like this. Right? They go into their careers with that awareness. And so I think it's important that we acknowledge the messaging sometimes comes from inside the house.
Oh, I love that. I've been saying that phrase a lot lately. It's funny, as a millennial, I think the thing that I also was sold was that you have to want this, right? Like you have to want to climb the ladder. You have to want to get married. You have to want to have babies. I was real quick, real early on. I was like, babies, no. Sticky, absolutely not in my home. And I knew that, I don't know, 20 years ago. And so I always knew I could do things differently, but I didn't really think about that as it pertains to work. And I did all this stuff, right? I got a complete role before I turned 30. And guess what? It emotionally wrecked me. I put so much of myself into it. I gained 100 pounds. I basically had no life. Everything was about work. PTO, I was still working. And guess what? When they turned around and laid me off, they didn't care about any of that. So all of that caring I did was for what?
Right. And I would tell my colleagues, listen, God forbid if you were to go missing, have to be in the hospital, drop dead, do you know that they would still be they would find a locums person, they would find somebody else to replace you in a heartbeat. So what you need to do, is start to take care of yourself and do the things that you like to do. Like you said, you have a whole life and a whole identity outside. There's a case to be made for when it's time to transition. And so what I want to know for you is, how did you know it was time for you to make that transition? And how did you do it in a way that felt workable?
So I think there are two things that happened. One, I got laid off. So that was like a year ago. And I knew something was off when my layoff came with a sense of relief. I wasn't like, oh, I'm so sad. I was like, I can't wait to never talk to you people again. But again, we're taught that like immediately you got to perform. So I truly got laid off on a Friday and had a contract role by Monday. And part of this was like, again, everyone likes a secure paycheck. But in actual transparency, this sounds wild, but it was more of a social experiment for me. I talk a lot about workplace environments and workplace culture, and I speak very specifically to nonprofits and startups.
Yeah.
I wanted some big tech experience just to be able to see the inner workings of what it is like to actually operate there as someone who holds a marginalized identity. So I took a 12-month contract at a big tech company, and boy, let me tell you, nothing has made me more ready to never do this again.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be writing content about it, but I was unprepared for the level of emotional damage that people that I am not emotionally attached to are actually capable of doing.
Wow.
The thing I know about myself, like I am a only child, former gifted kid. I am really smart. And like on my, I don't know, third week, the woman I reported to was like, you asked so many questions that I question your intellectual capabilities.
What? Ooh.
And that was like low tier on like the amount of wild things that were said to me. A white woman once told me my hair looked like a loofah in a meeting of 40 people out loud. And mind you, it was in a bun, right? And like, I guess in theory, but I was like, that's an inside thought. That is absolutely an inside thought. And so for me, like it got to a point where I was just so devoid of emotion because I had to be in order to cope with working here that I was like, this is not the life I want to live. And then probably 6 months ago, my partner and I were on a trip and I was working on my phone and he was like, you never get to be present. And it really stuck with me because this all ends, right? At some point, this is finite. Like very few things in life are binary. This certainly is.
Yeah.
Either you are living or you are not.
That's right.
And no one gets to the end and it's I had an unsent Slack. Oh, I wish I had spent more time at work. No, you're like, I wish I had spent more time with my partner. I wish I'd spent more time by the ocean. I wish I'd eaten more bread. Right. I wish I'd spent less time thinking about how my stomach looked in that dress. And I don't want to get to the end of life and feel that way.
Right.
Because you work. That's the lie you're sold is you make money. You perform because you have to have that nice house. You have to have that nice car. You have to have those nice vacations. But what does any of that matter if you don't get to actually be present and touch them? None of that matters. Then it's Instagrammable. We've made our entire lives Instagrammable.
That's right.
Because you're taking all these nice pictures on a vacation, but what you're not showing is that you haven't looked up from your phone to look at the people that you're with.
Right.
So for me, that was a little bit of it. And then we travel a lot. We are child free, so it's pretty easy for us to be like, let's go somewhere on a weekend. Yeah. But we were somewhere, and I just remember the idea of continuing to do this made me physically want to crawl out of my skin. The idea of hopping back in and proving my worth and trying to climb the ladder and smile hard enough and turn on my phone voice and do all of the things. I can't do it.
Yes. When you said turn on your phone voice, that made me laugh because it's so relatable, right? Hello.
How are you doing? Yeah.
It just makes me think of, I was on a meeting, and this happens often, right? So I was on a meeting when you're not on the meeting with the right people, when you're not in the room with the right people, you mask. And I remember pushing the end button and being like relaxing my face. And I've been starting to notice how many times a day I actually do that. And it gives me a sense of who I need to be around and who I don't need to be around. If I have to, if my face relaxes at the end of something, then it's, but if my face is still smiling at the end of it, then it's like that genuine, you know what I'm saying? Yes.
Even with my partner was like, hey, you've really started grinding your teeth in your sleep. Because again, you don't even realize some of the impacts that the stress that you have in these places takes on you, because sometimes it's subconscious, right? You're not even awake for that. But I can tell you, I wake up with a tension headache. I wake up with my jaw hurting. And even with this contract role, I actually had to physically coach myself until I don't care about this. And it's not about if I care about if I produce good work. I just don't care about, why do I care if this woman likes me? I don't like her, number one. So why do I care? The minute I switched that for myself, I had been getting multiple terrible blinding tension headaches a week. The minute I switched that, I have not had a single headache since, which is lovely. And I'm like, oh, I also gave that woman so much power that she was making me have to go lay down in the dark.
I know a lot of people are listening to this and are probably thinking, yeah, this is me. Maybe I need to rethink some things in my life. So how I knew it was time for me to leave clinical medicine was something actually similar. When you said what you said, I was like, oh, this is familiar. I was pregnant with my son in 2014. I had him in 2014, and I had my private, I was still practicing clinical, and I had my private practice. And so I got some people to cover for me. And I thought that when I went on maternity leave, that I would be like I would enjoy being off, but by the end, I'd be aching to come back because I missed my patients, not because I necessarily missed the work, but my patients. I used to love to connect with them. And it was 8 weeks in, and I was like, oh, I don't miss this at all. Not one solitary bit. And that was the clue for me that I was like, oh, you know what? It may be time for me to leave clinical medicine. And then I had to figure out what the heck I was going to do. Right? And what's been interesting is the what you're going to do next evolves so many times, right? It went from, okay, I'm leaving clinical, I'm coaching, and I still coach. Coaching is my first love. I was coaching when I was a clinician, my patients, but then it went to doctors who were burning out, and then started doing more of the speaking. And then I was like, oh, this is it. This is exactly what I want to do. And then I would evolve again. And so I think what's I've learned and what I think is fun and important is that as we grow and as we evolve, what we want evolves. And then the purest and most authentic form of transition is to answer with a yes. Listen and answer with the yes. Okay, what's going on next? You're moving into a new phase. I love Crash Out With Me, and I love all of that, right? You're moving into this phase, and then at some point, maybe it'll shift.
100%. And I think that's really the interesting thing about being a millennial is we have lived through so many unprecedented events that are probably now precedented. I think I feel very adaptable to my surroundings because every day I'm like, the world could blow up. Might as well go swim with a shark, right? Like the world could end. And for me, I think that has been how I've always been. I've always been able to adapt, but I've always stayed in the parameters that were corporate, right? My career has certainly changed over time, but I've kept it within the parameters of working for someone else. And I guess for me, I just want my life back. I want my time back. And I think that even means I also love coaching. It is something that I truly enjoy doing. I love people to have that aha moment of, oh, I get to not care. Holy shit. Yes. But I can also see myself very much owning a popsicle stand.
Yeah.
Like I actually just recently read an article about how lots of women are trading in their big corporate important jobs for boring jobs and the positive impact that has had on their emotional health. Because again, we all begged and prayed for these jobs where I'm so important. I don't want to be important anymore, right? I want to be important to my family. I want to be important in my hobbies. I want to be important to my pets. And I can't always be important to them if everyone else needs me.
Right.
And Black women are so overly relied on in the general sense, at home, at work. You cannot possibly do all of those things well and then also be reliable to yourself.
That part.
I want a life where every day I go to the gym at the same time and nobody interrupts me and no one can schedule over it. That's like a non-starter for me. I've decided I'm not going to work a single Friday this summer. Who's going to stop me?
Yes. Yeah. I think that when you get so connected to your values and what's important to you, it becomes easy when you especially when you get connected to your values and what's important to you, and then recognize how far away you might be from them, or you might have been from them, right? Working on Fridays, that I chunked that out the door a while ago. And I think at this point, for me, I think I'm a little closer to retirement than I am to the other side of my career. You start to realize I'm like transitioning to a boring job. I got a garden out front. I was like, you know what? Wouldn't it be nice if I started a community garden and teach kids how to garden? Or you know what? Yeah, I'm a yogi. Wouldn't it be nice if I got certified and taught kids yoga? You can see a theme here, kids. Right? I like kids in general. I love my kid too, of course, but I like, right? But I'm like the neighborhood auntie, and I like being around kids and teaching them things, and they're so funny to me. But like, I think about that. You know what? At some point, maybe I could retire doing retreats.
Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about doing a crash out retreat. And it's really funny. So you knew my partner and I had been talking about an international move, and he's been thinking, what will I do? And so he opened an Etsy shop. And it is just like the cutest thing to me, because he also could see a world in which like he just crafts.
Yes.
So I'm sitting, as you can see, like I'm surrounded by Etsy things, right? So he makes these buttons.
Oh, look at those buttons.
And like keychains and all of these things. And it's just so nice to see him work on things that like he's passionate about, right? And then he has fun with. And I think that's a great point to like you loving to spend time with children. I think so many of adults learn how to interact with their inner child while in corporate America. The other day I saw someone that I follow like posting about how they were monetizing their child's hobbies. And I was like, do we have to introduce children to capitalism this early? Let them just have some fun, because once you get here, it sucks. Again, like I totally understand like the point of financial literacy and all of that. But I think teaching children very young that you have to monetize everything you love, you don't love it anymore. I say that like when I played college soccer, I stopped loving it because it became a job, right? It wasn't fun anymore. And I think it has taken me a long time now to find time to spend with my hobbies, because when we are taught that if our hobbies can't produce income, they're not useful to us. And so then on my podcast yesterday, I met with someone and she was saying that she really struggles to like just sit down and watch TV because it doesn't feel productive enough. And I need us to all unlearn all of that.
Oh,
because
yeah.
You shouldn't be productive all of the time. I don't want to be productive all of the time. How exhausting is that?
Yeah, it is. It is. I love a good TV show. I love to kick my feet up. I often will be like, I don't take calls after. I don't take any. When I say I don't take calls, it's not. I mean, like family doesn't call me after 8 o'clock.
No, my phone has been on Do Not Disturb for 8 years. Do not call me at all, ever. Text me, and if you need me to call, I'll let you know if it's a possibility, but nothing comes to
If I'm fixing dinner and my kid's outside, if I'm like driving to pick him up, that's a window. If I'm driving to take him to the state line to meet his pops, that's a really good window for me to connect. But like the people in my life, they know that about me. So oftentimes they'll be like, when are you driving again? Are you driving this weekend? Are you driving this weekend?
You're in the gym.
What time are y'all eating dinner? Can I call you while you're making dinner? The people who know me well. Yeah. And it's just, I think that's the way we need to be with our careers as well. It's like we train the people around us. We train the people around us. I just had a situation, speaking of training, where I was invited to do a speaking engagement. And then the person said, okay, you know what? Let's meet with the committee. And when I met with the committee, it felt like an interview. And I was like, wait, hold on. And then they were like, oh, we're building our speaking pipeline. And then I got an email. And by the way, the honorarium was much lower than I typically take. But because it was it was a friend of a friend, and it was in front of an audience that I knew could be a valuable audience, I was like, all right, I'll do it. But then I got an email that was like, oh, we're still interviewing other speakers, and we'll either you'll do this August date or next April. And I was like, next April?
We could blow up by then.
Right. So it's like that boundary. We train people. There would have been a time in my life where I would have been like, okay, I'll wait for you for this lower much 1/5 of what I would normally get just to walk on the stage. But I had to be like, no, guess what? I'm willing to hold the August date for the next week, and I will not hold the April date. So I'll await your final decision, right? It's that kind of training of people in our environments, whether it's in your corporate environment or your business environment. You got to train the people around you.
I say that as someone who I've been chasing someone for $20,000 for 6 months. So let this be a lesson. Take your deposits, everyone, even when they're someone you know, right? Even when they're someone you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because the moment I've actually experienced exactly what you're talking about. This day will be held once I get the deposit. Right?
Yep. And then it's like you don't want to be like rude, because then that doesn't help your face. So you're like, hey, just checking in.
But the thing about it, this is like what you alluded to earlier. Organizations don't come at white women and white men that way.
No, they get paid. Their checks clear immediately.
And part of it is, I think I say for myself, let me take a lesson from that. They demand and they set that boundary and they get what they need because it's not going to be offered to Black women in the same way that it's offered to others. And so I think that is an important, when you're, especially when you're in corporate, when you're in career, you got to ask for what you want and you got to set the boundaries. And then you have to set the boundaries with yourself. Like you said earlier, it's like for you, it was a clue when you got laid off and you were relieved. We have to set those boundaries with ourselves. Okay, who am I? I'm not my job. Who am I? And if I am suffering, is it a career change? Is it a job change? Is it what kind of change is it? Is it just a, like you said, disconnect from the bosses or a disconnect from thinking that your value is tied to what other people think of you and what you produce?
100%. And I think, again, so many of us don't actually know who we are because
Yes.
we do not spend nearly enough time with ourselves. We live in a society that allows you to dopamine surf and avoid the feelings, right? Avoid the shame, avoid the uncomfy, avoid the sad. You go out drinking. So you go on Amazon and you do an instant purchase because we love instant gratification. And when you don't spend any time with yourself, how can you possibly know what you need? And in turn, no one you know is a mind reader. Not people who know you the best, not people who barely know you at work.
That's right.
So how can they know what you need if you don't know what you need?
That's right.
You have to set the example and then you also have to hold the line, right? If you set a boundary and then you don't follow through with it, guess what? It's basically just a suggestion and they don't care about your suggestion.
That's right. That's right. And so that pulls me back around to this idea of career change and it being authentic, because a lot of people think that when they're jumping out of a job that they have to change careers, when it's not always that. And like you said it at the very beginning, like wrapping it back around, like you said at the beginning, it's not always realistic to change careers, to start your own business, to just leave your job, right? If you're going to do that, it's like that needs to come from an authentic place, like a very centered, values driven place, not as a reaction. Not as a reaction. And so I think that everything that we've said is centered around that. Like, how do you get centered in your values and what you need and who you are so that you can make the next best step? Whether it is, okay, I just need to get a coach. Like, read a good book.
I don't have it with me. I should keep it here.
Let them see you. Right.
But I also think it's one of the things that I have my clients practice is I want you to take your job and then I want you to write down every single thing about your job that lights you up because that's why you do it, right? There are things about it that you love. And then I also want you to write down all of the things that you don't like. And then from there, it's really easy to start to see like where your values align, right? Is your joy coming from coaching people? Is your joy coming from making sure that people have what they need to do their job?
Yeah.
Do you hate admin work? I don't know. It might be me.
Yeah.
What about your job you love? What about your job you don't love really helps you to be able to move forward, especially if you're going to go out on your own, right? What I did when I did this was everything that I hate, I'm just not going to do.
Yeah.
Why would I continue to do it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we have definitely given people a lot to think about. A lot. I can envision some of my audience that are like sitting there, okay, I need to go and write this list down. And maybe I need to be thinking about how much stock I'm putting into what other people are thinking about me. I can imagine that my audience is having those thoughts. And so I really appreciate this conversation with you. And it's like such a authentic and just it's fireside. It's you know, heartsies. So, but what I would like for you to share with the audience, number one, two things. Number one, if there's nothing they take away from this conversation, what would you most want them, if there's nothing else, I should say, because they're going to take away something, but if there's nothing else, what is the one thing you want them to remember moving forward?
You are the glass ball, work is a plastic ball. Work can afford to drop, you cannot. You have to do everything you can to protect yourself. And again, sometimes that doesn't mean leaving work, but putting yourself in a bubble so that it doesn't wreck you. Yes. You are the most important thing. Your body is your longest owned piece of real estate. You are your longest friend. I have a 50-year-old home. I've had to look in every nook and cranny of this house to make sure it doesn't fall down on me. You have to do the same thing with yourself. You have to look at all the dark parts, all the parts you don't like, those kitchen cabinets that you think they're the wrong color. You have to look at those too. You have to spend time with yourself. And the longer that you avoid it, the longer you kick the can down the road of really, truly figuring out what you want out of this big, beautiful, but very short life.
Yes. Yes. I love it. You are the glass ball and work is the plastic ball. That is dope. Okay. That's one that I might have to quote you on, especially when this comes out. But you are the glass ball, work is the plastic ball, by Madison Butler.
Most things are a plastic ball, right? If you don't get to most things today, life is going to be just dang fine.
That's right.
If you don't get to you today consistently, guess what? You are not going to be fine.
That's right.
If I don't do the laundry today, but I'll do the laundry tomorrow. It's fine.
Right. So let the people know, let the folks know how they can follow you, how they can get your book, how they can, if they want to hire you, let them know. What do they got to do? What do they got to do?
Yeah. So you can find me on all social media at Madison Amelia B, and then LinkedIn at Madison Butler. I am the one with the blue hair. Very easiest spot. My book is called Let Them See You. You can buy it at any bookstore, but might I recommend bookshop.org because we do like to support small businesses around here rather than conglomerates. If you'd like to work with me, if you'd like to hire me, you can email me, you can DM me on LinkedIn. But again, I am very strict about who I work with. So come prepared to tell me why we should work together.
That's right. As we should be. We can have a whole nother conversation about that last line. I am very strict about who I work with. And so maybe that's a part B when you've transitioned and we talk about how we do not always have to say yes to people.
I love divorcing a client, let me tell you. And I love saying things like, you don't get to talk to me like that.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite lines.
Yes. Yes. Well, before we start a whole nother podcast on this podcast, because we will do it. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for taking the time to, because here's the thing. I am a time is valuable kind of girl. And so I never step over the fact that people choose to spend time with me. And so I appreciate you choosing to spend time with me on this podcast and you being willing to give your wisdom, share your wisdom and your blue hair, beauty, unicorn with us. And so I look forward to staying connected and maybe even a part 2 at some point.
Yes. Or you can come on mine.
Oh, ooh, I would live that. I would live that.
Perfect.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you too. Again, I love to thank our audience. Thank you to the audience for listening because without you, there is no podcast. Please share this episode with a friend, with a family member, with a colleague, because people need to know that they are training the people around them, especially at work. And we want to be our most authentic expressions, whether we are staying in our careers, divorcing our careers, and changing careers, whatever we're doing, we are the glass ball, right? So please share this episode, leave a comment, leave a review, let the people coming behind you know that this is some good-ish, okay? Okay. So y'all, I will see you on the other side. Have a great rest of the week and weekend. And until the next time, stay empowered.